Hey everyone, Dr. Carter here. I'm currently located at coordinates near SWRC outpost number 1291, preparing the excavation of a fossil bed with high representation of Squamossuchus horribilis. I have to fill a report anyway, so I don't know why I'm still required to record this, but whatever, let's get to it. While these creatures have been attested in ancient cultures of this region, no doubt a result of the locals finding fossil remains of the species exposed by the elements, no name is associated with them in literature. It doesn't help that these cultures are oftentimes very reluctant to discuss them, believing that to mention them by name would draw their attention. Hence, I'll just refer to them by their scientific name. Squamossuchus, as far as fossil evidence can show us, are descended from aquatic reptiles known as sauropterygians, although their exact ancestry is still debated, bearing a few educated hypotheses. It seems they evolved away from the aquatic lifestyle of their ancestors, surviving on rocky coastal areas that gave larger predators less space to maneuver. They retained their crawling body plan, and in life it is likely they would have moved like the very first tetrapods did, using powerful flipper-like front limbs that could propel them through water as easily as they could drag their bodies across land. A flexible spine allowed them to scoot across land similar to modern-day seals, a behavior that has been preserved in several fossil trackways. Strange to the modern observer, but still highly efficient. They also became much smaller now that their weight was not being supported by water. These animals were rather widespread during the Cretaceous. Its fossils have been found across rock strata spanning tens of millions of years, virtually unchanged. Identifiable fossils are found in what corresponds to the modern-day northern Africa, the Mediterranean, and large parts of Asia, especially along the shores of what would have been the Tethys Sea, although their numbers decrease with time until almost disappearing before the KPG extinction event, with remaining fossils being found in the Arabian Peninsula, dwindling before finally disappearing during the Miocene as the Mediterranean ran dry during the Messinian salinity crisis. What we can gather from their skulls shows huge temporal fenestrae that would have supported very powerful muscles, no doubt tied to their bite force, as their huge jaws and dagger-like teeth indicate they retained predatory habits. As far as we can tell, Squamossuchus had little need to adapt to their new environment, since they retained an at least partially aquatic lifestyle. But even more than that, adaptation would have been rather hard in these organisms, given their evolutionary rate seems to have become increasingly reduced as time went on, if you pardon the oxymoron, a result of the long periods between generations. This is tied to a couple things. For one, they seem to have been incredibly long-lived, if not outright biologically immortal. Fossils have been found of individuals that lived in excess of 300 or 400 years, and there is no evidence of aging, weakness, or poor health when compared with younger individuals, with older ones being mostly distinguished by subtle size variations and the growth of large horns on the head, likely a sign of sexual maturity. If this long lifespan may be tied to telomerase-based DNA repair, or to other known mechanisms that allow animals to be biologically immortal, we have no evidence to go off of as of now. These elder fossils are not exactly rare, at least proportional to the totality of discovered fossils, and contrastingly, fossils of eggs and juveniles are extremely rare. While this can simply be a result of the remains being harder to fossilize, lower fertility rates would coincide with the longer lifespan and reproductive period of these organisms. Of course, this is still a hypothesis on my part, but I hope this newly discovered bone bed might shed some light on things. Anyhow, I've used up enough time to prepare everything, so I'll keep recording notes as I go. Which takes us to the fun part. Y'all are going to love this. As I was scanning the area where most Squamossuchus fossils have been found, I found the entrance to a cave system. The fascinating thing is, the strata around it are completely exposed. Exposed in a way that seems to indicate deliberate carving. In fact, there are carvings in these walls. Reptilian motifs, no doubt representing our bony friends over here. The fossils here are clear enough to even betray the age of the strata, the tail end of the Cretaceous. And that's not all. I made a quick nitric acid test and the results indicate high levels of iridium, which can only mean this cave was formed very soon after the KPG extinction event, since these levels of iridium are very characteristic of the impact of the meteorite that caused it. However, this is not my area of expertise, so I should wait here and wait for a proper team to help me carefully study this. Just kidding, I'm going in. Be right back, nerds. This has to be a joke of some kind. I've gone deeper into the cave, crawled all the way to a large chamber. Low ceiling, but traversable. There are not fossils in here. These are mummified specimens. Of course, in such arid and dry environments, this is not exactly rare, but it's still... Gods. There are so many of them. I've been walking for less than 600 meters and I've seen dozens upon dozens of them. These must date back to the very last of their species, before their coastal world vanished completely. And they seem to lay on large, coffin-like structures, which is unusual, sure, but not unheard of. We already know of animals capable of building such things. Perhaps these Squamossuchus were parents, sitting on their nests atop eggs that never hatched. Anyhow, seeing Squamossuchus with preserved tissue, to see these creatures in the flesh after only having bones to study, it's the experience of a lifetime. It is as we expected. The musculature of the jaws is astounding. And the nose? Despite the prominent nasal fenestra, the nose itself is almost entirely absent. It seems to be closed off by powerful muscles, perhaps a mechanism to avoid the entry of water when they swam, or of sand when outside of the water. Additionally, there seems to be another lump on top of the head, one not evidenced by the underlying bone structure. It almost resembles the melon of a cetacean, although rather more subdued. I must call in a team as soon as I leave here so we can get as many individuals as possible for dissection. Wait. They're forelimbs. Based on fragmentary evidence, we expected this to be more like flippers. Maybe some rudimentary digits for digging, but they have hands. Hands with what seem to be dexterous fingers, almost primate-like. Could this be used to hold prey? But the large jaws would make such a strategy unlikely. Hold on. Okay, I'm at one of the tunnel walls now. There are more carvings in here. I had not paid much attention, but the creatures presented here are, bearing some light stylization, almost identical to the preserved ones, beyond what a representation based on fossils would allow. They are shown digging, building, carving. We need to get someone on this writing. They are depicted fleeing underground as entire crowds die behind them, and they are sleeping, being lowered into this same coffins and awakening? That can't be. Are they hibernating? I heard something. I'm not sure if that was recorded in the... Did you hear that? Hello? Hello? Hey everyone! That was our speculative look into the inhabitants of the Nameless City, from the eponymous 1921 short story by famous racist and writer HP Lovecraft. As with many of his creatures, a really fun aspect was trying to draw what this could have looked like based on a vague description, the entirety of which you can see on screen right now. And I'll say, it took a bit to get the design there, but as we determined what kind of organisms this could be on our Patreon Discord, please join, based on what little descriptions and data we had on them, more and more things began falling into place, until we reached the design you are seeing right now. As for the organism inspiration, we went with sauropterygians due to their Mesozoic origin, since they are supposed to be much older than humanity, having a body resembling that of aquatic reptiles, like crocodiles, and features in common with the sauropterygians such as bumpy heads, which could be tied to heavy musculature. After that was done, I wanted to play a bit with the format by giving it a bit of a twisty narrative, which I felt complemented the Halloween theme nicely, and it was fun to do too. So, big thanks to anyone who has asked to see more of Lovecraft stuff on the channel. I hope you liked this one, and be sure it won't be the last this season. And also, thank you to our researchers and research associates who support us through Patreon and YouTube memberships, and who chose this episode in our Halloween poll. Remember, you too can join in if you want to support our channel, and you get some nice perks too, like seeing all of our creatures and videos ahead of time, and helping mold them into shape. Or you can also like, subscribe, or write a comment telling me any type of creature you would like me to give the Spekivo treatment in the show. Any of those really help the channel a lot. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time on the Speculative Wildlife Research Center. Carter here, sorry about that. I dropped my recorder. I'm with the Croc guys. They are super chill. They even gave me dinner, some kind of stew, it was really good. I'm back at the cave's entrance, where I can call in a team. Man, I can't wait, cooperation with these guys is going to be awesome!